So you're here at this training because in some way you've agreed to assist with your local unit of SAF. And first, thank you. Second, we appreciate your time, and it really means a lot to us that folks who are thought highly by their peers have been nominated and brought here today to be part of this academy. So thank you for what you're about to do. But let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the Society of American Foresters first, because it is a little bit of an interesting structure that reflects quite a bit about our history as foresters here in America. A lot of times when folks think about the Society of American Foresters, we think first of the mission statement. Right? This is really key to any organization. That mission statement. It says who we are. It says what we do. It says what's critically important to us. What are our goals and objectives for being here and being this organization. I've taken the liberty of underlining a few key phrases there. And if at any time your local unit is looking to strategize and say, are we focusing on what's important, you really don't need to go any further than those key phrases right in the mission statement. I mean, those are really the goals of SAF as they're laid out. Second thing is the code of ethics. We can't have a profession without a code of ethics, correct? Ethics are something that it's not just words. It encompasses the core of who we are as professional foresters. It's the reason why we exist in the first place. It says that yes, our profession is it's not just a job; it's a profession. And there are a lot of us who take one step forward and says, really this is a vocation. It's something that really has deeper meaning for society and for the environment around us. And really the last thing I want to put in here, which underneath the Code of Ethics is something that the national organization came up with a few years ago. That's what is called our core language, or our core values of SAF. And I'm sure they paid some consultants a lot of money for this, but it's worth it because it really takes that information about what we do, what we care about, and it distills it down into some really simple language that anybody, whether they're a forester, a layperson, a landowner, another conservationist, or someone who disagrees with us, they can read those words and it communicates across what we think, what we believe in. So I really urge you to consider that and really make that part of what you think about SAF. All right, but I haven't answered the question. What is the Society of American Foresters? Well, legally speaking, it's a piece of paper that somebody filed in the District of Columbia back in 1924 that says that our group should be treated as a corporation and not just a group of people. That's it. It's a corporation. What's a corporation? All it is a piece of paper in a filing cabinet. And without leadership, that's all SAF can ever be, is just a piece of paper. So, what brings SAF to life? It's you. It's everybody who's doing that work at the local level. It's the folks who are doing the work at the national level. It's everybody who pays their dues. It's the national staff. This is what brings SAF together. All right. But let's take a fast look real quick about what that piece of paper actually says. It says that the Society of American Foresters is managed by a board of directors. We're lucky enough to have at least one person here who has served on the board of directors here for SAF. these folks are the ultimate decision makers for the organization. That board of directors. They're governed by bylaws, just like many of your local units are, and other policies and procedures. The bylaws, and we'll get to this because we're really not going to go through this later. Every facet of SAF has bylaws. The national organization, your state societies, and on down the line, all the way down to the local chapters. Each of them has bylaws. And those bylaws are really the mission critical language of what your organization does, what it's responsible for, and I'll say that, you know, even changing a single word in those bylaws, it's important enough that if those bylaws are changed, it requires a vote of the membership. Which is pretty wild. So thus, we don't change those terribly often because a vote of the membership is a pretty weighty responsibility. Very recently, SAF did change its bylaws just because the old ones were pretty clunky, and thankfully they've been simplified a good bit. Then policies and procedures. Policies and procedures, these are the things that they're no less important, but the language in it may still be evolving. Okay, it may be something that we need to look at that a little bit more often. Okay, so for example, we have a policy on antitrust in the Society of American Foresters, that every meeting, you know, you can't be talking about prices and stuff like that. It's something that's just not done. And there is a policy on it because, you know, hey, even in this room today, there's a lot of folks from a lot of different areas and everything like that, and, you know, we don't want anything on collusion. It's not in the bylaws because if anything ever came out of the courts and said, well, we're defining this as this, you know, it's a lot easier for the board of directors just to, you know, wave their hands and say, oh, okay, we're going to change this word in the antitrust policy, and it's done. It doesn't require a vote of the membership or something like that. The diversity and inclusion policy, which has been something that's been evolving as time has gone on over the last few years. This is something that's new. It's not unimportant. It is important, but it's something that it's so new that we really need the flexibility on that. All right. So how many people are on the board of directors? This is this is a 10,000 member organization here, and we're in an election right now, or the SAF election just ended.
Just ended.
It just ended. Okay. All right. So we've got 14 voting members elected by the membership, and those include the president, the vice president, which is really kind of a president-elect, and an immediate past president, and then 11 representatives from the various areas. So Allegheny and National Capital is one area. New York and New England together are another, and that's how we elect folks to the board of directors. There are also some non-voting members up there. Folks are important enough that, yeah, they're not elected, they don't get a vote, but they're still important enough that they really need to be at the table. So the chair of the Forest Policy Committee, for probably obvious reasons, the Forest Science and Technology Board, the National Student, there's a student representative, the chair of the House of Society of Delegates. So again, these are all folks who have a voice there, although for legal reasons they don't have an official vote. And then the last is the CEO of the Society of American Foresters, the head of the professional staff, who's there in a non-voting capacity. So, you know, ultimately speaking, that board of directors, they are the ultimate decision-making authority within SAF. All right. From there, the national organization has a number of advisory committees. Okay? Some of these are specified in the bylaws, some of them are special and they're renewed every year. And we can think of the ones that are enshrined in the bylaws as the ones that are really kind of mission critical. So that Forest Science and Technology Board, the Forest Policy Committee, the Certification Review Board for those of us with the CF credential, Educational Policy Review Committee, Committee on Accreditation. Your college has that nice little SAF accreditation on its program or programs. Well, you know, those are the folks who make it happen. National Convention, et cetera, ethics, Committee on Professional Recognition, which is basically the awards committee. All these folks, they deliberate amongst themselves, and they pass their recommendations onto the board of directors, who then, you know, most oftentimes will approve it, but you know, they have every right as the ultimate decision makers to send things back down if they think one of those committees is off base. So then working from there are the working groups. Anybody here in a working group in SAF that you're aware of? Okay, which working group?
Think ecology.
Think ecology. All right, I see a hand back here.
Silviculture?
Silviculture. All right, anybody else? Yes.
Non-industrial private forestry.
Non-industrial private forestry.
Diversity and inclusion.
Diversity and inclusion. All right. That's an active one. I don't need to ask you. Those other working groups, how often are they communicating or putting?
I get an email every month or two.
Every month or two. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic.
The national I probably hear from once or twice a year, but we also have a New England chapter that's pretty active.
Okay. All right. So national once or twice a year. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
Do biometrics and inventory, and they usually meet at the national convention.
Okay, so once a year. Okay. I'll say that I'm on the urban forestry working group, which you know, about twice a year I hear from them. Anybody back here? I realize I asked for hands and I was missing a few people here. Working groups, these are communities of interest. And this is a way to connect people across state lines within certain disciplines. And there's so many different working groups that are set up, and it's a way to build relationships. It's a way to connect with peers, especially for folks who are very active in that world, and really need a means to connect. This is an opportunity that SAF provides. It is a great way to influence. You know, hey, listen, you know, in New Jersey, you know, non-industrial private forestry, it's my thing. You know, there's a lot of things that go on in SAF and everything like that. That's like, well, that's really great, but you know, this is my thing. This is and if I'm looking for a way to communicate with folks out, you know, in the greater Pittsburgh area or southern New York or something like that, and it's just not necessarily convenient to do it other ways, that's a really great way to do it. I'm also going to say that this is far and away the most underutilized aspect of SAF. I'm going to say far and away. You've got a group of folks like urban and community forestry. This is a rapidly developing field. Silviculture. You know, these are folks that there's a lot of folks with a lot of interest in some of these fields. And a lot of these groups are even less active than the ones that we named today, and you know, they're, you know, twice a year, once a year, you know, maybe quarterly. These are some really good opportunities to demonstrate leadership.